Chapter 11. Later that night, near the hidden castle, the two servants of the witch were on their way back with fresh spring water. One of them said, "Do you know what the old witch is doing? And why does she need this water?" "The Count is up to something. I think he wants to conquer the princess," answered the other one. "I see. And the witch must be helping him. But why does he want the other girl?" "Well, that I really don't know. But we don't have to think about such things. If the Count's plan works, whatever it is, it will be greater and better for us. So stop asking so many questions and just do as you're told." Right. You have so much sense. We'll have good things if we do well for the Count." At that moment they saw two men in black uniforms facing them. It was Arlo and Owen, dressed as soldiers. Arlo immediately made a firm approach to the neglected-looking servants. "What are you doing here at this hour? The Count doesn't like people wandering about his estate." "True, sir, but we are on a secret mission from the Count and must return as soon as possible," explained one of the servants. "Secret, eh?" Arlo continued. "We have not been informed of such a thing. What is this mission? Speak up if you know what's good for you." "I'm sorry, sir. I can't tell you, or we'll all be in trouble with the Count. You'd better come back to the cave with us. We'll meet the witch and all will be clear. We're nearly there." "Yeah, the witch." Arlo tried to hide the shock he felt. What were they doing to his sister? He continued, "I'll tell you what's going to happen. We're going to go back to the cave with you two and find out if what you say is true. Now, you go on ahead of us." They set off, and very soon they came to a rock wall at the foot of the mountain. The servants went in behind a dense bush, Arlo and Owen behind them. There was the mouth of the cave. One of the servants took a burning torch from the wall, and with it they passed through a dark, narrow tunnel and came to a larger room. A few torches lit the room, which was the size of a dwelling house. From there, 3 more tunnel passages opened up. The servants looked at each other and entered the middle one. The boys looked at each other and followed them. In the end, they came to a smaller chamber with no further passages. Here, 2 soldiers were playing cards, but they jumped up immediately. "What are you doing here?" said the officer standing nearer to the servant in front. "Who are they?" "We met them not far from here, and they were not familiar, so I thought it is best to bring them here." Owen stood at attention and saluted. "Private Arlo and Private Owen, reporting for duty." "Sir," he said enthusiastically. "Duty?" asked the soldier. "You are recruits, are you? And we were not told. You go about your business. I'll take care of this." He beckoned to the 2 servants, who turned on their heels and left the cramped room. The soldier began to take a closer look at the newbies. Arlo noticed that their swords were down in the corner. However, just beside Owen, leaning against the wall, was a shovel. "So," the soldier began, "who sent you here? Where did you get your uniforms? Where did you get your training? Where are your papers? Where are your weapons?" But the boys remained silent, not saying a word. "Speak, soldier!" The officer raised his voice. He had been talking to Owen, now he turned to Arlo. "Answer the questions!" Owen suddenly picked up the shovel beside him and in one swift movement struck the soldier on the head so hard that he immediately fainted. The other soldier was already reaching for his sword, but Arlo jumped on him in time and began to wrestle. Finally, with Owen's help, they managed to hold him down and tie him up. His mouth was also gagged. "We can go," said Owen, satisfied. "Wait, there's something else wrong." "What? We've gagged him. We can't even listen to him, lest he scream for help." "Yes, but we can't tie him to anything. He can get out of here and get help. We gotta hit him." "This one too? One wasn't enough? He might not even wake up." "We don't have a choice if we want to stay under cover." "I think you're right." "All right. Knock him down. Here's the shovel." The soldier shook his head in exasperation and watched the boys with squinted eyes as he tried to speak. Arlo stepped up behind the soldier, swung the shovel hard, and then struck. The soldier immediately fainted. Owen poked him with his foot to make sure he wasn't faking it, but he didn't move. They picked up their swords. "Arlo, do we know how to use swords?" "I don't." "Nor I." "Let's just put the sword on anyway, so no one else notices we're not armed." They went back down the tunnel to the previous great hall and entered through the opening on the right. As they approached another chamber, they heard voices and crept slowly, unnoticed, until they could see into the room. They caught sight of a stern-looking man in noble attire who was talking to a senior officer. It was a neatly furnished room-like chamber. In the middle was a narrow but immensely deep chasm. Only a few planks of wood had been put through it. It might as well have been a headquarters. "Are you and your men ready?" came the man's voice. "Yes, Count. We will have 20 men lying in ambush, ready to move out," replied the officer. "It's him," Arlo whispered to Owen in the darkness. "Good, good," continued the Count, "but be very careful not to underestimate the king's soldiers. They may try some trick. It would have been easier if he had left the hostage exchange to us, but it can still be done. Either way, I'll be the heroic rescuer." "You got those fool guys we're going to pin the whole kidnapping on?" "Yes, sir, we have them, and I'll personally run the operation, sir. I wouldn't trust anyone else. I'm honored, sir. I'll try to serve you like a good soldier. You are very generous." "All right, that's enough of this bootlicking. You can go." The chief officer saluted, and then he was on his way out. The boys quickly hid behind a large overhanging rock in the shadows. They waited for the chief officer to pass. Then Owen would have started, but Arlo held him off. "Wait," he whispered, pointing to the officer, who then started shouting to his men. Within a minute, at least 20 soldiers had gathered in the large hall and were heading for the exit. The footsteps grew quieter and quieter, until at last there was complete silence. They emerged from behind the rock and walked slowly into the Count's room with their swords drawn. They stopped, and the Count looked at them, stunned. He could see that these were not his soldiers. "Guard!" cried the Count. "They have gone," said Arlo, a little haughtily. "Come now, children, be careful with that sword or you'll cut yourselves. Who are you? What do you want? Where did you get your uniforms?" "Where's my little sister Daisy?" Arlo asked sternly. "What? Who are you talking about? Oh, it must be that little village girl. I think the witch has already taken her blood, so you can take her for all I care. If not, you'll have to wait," explained the Count. "You have the princess, haven't you? Lydia." "I have no idea what you're talking about, kid. You have a vivid imagination." "He's lying," Owen interjected. "Boys, I'll tell you what. You put the sword away, turn around, and walk out of the cave, and we'll forget all about this. If you want, you can wait for the girl there. Though I don't know how much blood the old woman will draw. Maybe a lot." "We appreciate the offer," Arlo replied as he approached slowly. "However, I can do better than that. You will lead us nicely to the girls, both of them. You let them go, and we'll walk out of here with them." "I still don't understand what other girl you're talking about." "Why do you even need Daisy's blood? Why hers?" Arlo asked. "Oh, is it? Actually, it's not for me, it's for the witch, for some kind of magic. This girl fit the description she gave." "That's a lot of nonsense," said Owen to Arlo again as they drew nearer to the Count. They had already crossed the chasm, and Owen slid back one of the planks with his heel, unnoticed. "Just don't fall off yet." He thought it might make a good trap. The Count also slowly crept sideways along the wall as they talked. Arlo saw him move for his sword, and then lunged at him, but the Count had already reached for his sword and was defending himself easily. Then Owen attacked him too. He was a little harder to defend, but he was confident, and sometimes managed to attack the boys back. Arlo saw the situation as two of them had a chance against him because of the tight space. The Count could not really swing widely due to the wall, as he often glanced off it as he struck. Then, suddenly, he did manage to cut Owen's leg, and he fell, but Owen moved in such a way as to push the Count towards the precipice. He slipped over the edge and almost fell, but managed to hold on to the loose plank. Owen called to Arlo, "Arlo, the plank, quickly!" Arlo stepped to the edge of the precipice. "Where are Daisy and the princess?" he asked angrily, pressing the point of his sword against the end of the plank. "Help me up, and I will lead you there," said the Count. "Don't believe him. He's lying," cried Owen again. "This is your last chance." "Speak," said Arlo. All right," the Count agreed, but as he tried to hold on, one of his hands slipped. Arlo quickly grabbed his other hand, but it began to slip outward as well. "Owen, quick! Find a rope!" Arlo shouted, but it was too late. The Count's hand slipped and he fell into the bottomless, dark abyss. Arlo was stunned, but he had no time to think. He stepped up to Owen and quickly bandaged his leg. "Never mind me. Save Daisy while you still can." "Don't move. I'll come back for you." Arlo grabbed a torch and went back into the great hall, then entered the third tunnel he hadn't been through before. When he reached the end, he entered the old woman's chamber. He was shocked to see that in one of the cages was Daisy, whose arm was being pulled out and held down by one of the servants outside the cage. The witch was approaching them with a knife and a bowl. "Stop, old witch! Let her go!" Arlo shouted, and rushed towards the witch. The witch quickly dropped the bowl and knife, jumped to the stove, and suddenly threw something into the fire. There was a great crack and smoke. By the time it had gone, the witch and her servant had disappeared. "Arlo, I knew you would come for me," said Daisy. "Daisy, it was almost too late. How can we open this cage?" "The old woman had the key." "Wait, the key." Arlo remembered the all-opening key and took it out, but was shocked to find that it didn't fit in the lock. He started to look for it when Owen appeared at the entrance to the room with a sledgehammer in his hand. "I think this key will fit it," he said confidently. "Owen, I told you to wait for me there. Give me that hammer." He took it from him and struck the lock with it. Daisy was free. "Come on, let's get out of here," said Arlo, but Daisy held him back. "Wait, the princess, she's in that cupboard." She pointed to a big old cupboard by the wall. "Is she here?" Arlo went over, opened the cupboard door, and there sat the princess, a little dazed. Arlo took her arm and helped her up. "Come, your highness, we're going home." "Who are you?" asked the princess quietly. "My name is Arlo. My friend and I have come to rescue you and my little sister." "And the witch?" "The coward has disappeared. You needn't worry about her. Come on, let's go." "Wait, thank you. You saved me from the Count, who is about to do something terrible." Owen interrupted. "Let's go before the soldiers come back, and keep a low profile outside. It's best if we don't reveal the identity of the princess until we get to the palace. She won't be safe. We'll just be pilgrims now." "I think you are right. It will be safer," Arlo agreed. The four of them went out through the narrow tunnel to the open air and headed for the city. Chapter 12. The king had already consulted some of his senior soldiers about the ransom. "And how many men will you have following them?" the king asked one of them. "Every suspicious character in the area will be followed by 4 men, your majesty. We will post at least a dozen units within a 1-mile radius. After handing over the gold, we'll feign a retreat and let them think all went well," explained the officer. "All right, just capture their leader." A hall guard entered the council chamber and made an announcement. "Your Majesty, I must apologize, but something very important has happened. Her Royal Highness Princess Lydia has arrived." "What? Where is she? Is she all right?" The king started for the door. "She is waiting in the hall. She is well. She has just arrived with 2 boys and a girl." At the open door, Lydia ran into the hall straight to her father, and they embraced. "Lydia, I was so worried about you," said the king. "Your Majesty, what shall we do about the action?" The officer stood beside the king. "Oh, yes. Continue the operation. Arrest all those involved in the kidnapping," the king ordered. "Yes, your Majesty." With that, the soldiers and the hall guards left the hall. "Those 2 boys saved me from Count Walter. They are waiting outside," said Lydia. "Count Walter? Did he kidnap you? But he wanted to help." The king was puzzled. "He kidnapped me, and my bodyguard betrayed me. He also kidnapped this boy's little sister, but I'll explain later. Come now, you must meet them." Lydia stepped to the door and motioned her new friends to come in. Arlo, Owen, and Daisy entered the hall and bowed to the king. "So you saved my daughter?" the king asked as he looked them over with his eyes. "Yes, your Majesty," Arlo replied. "Thank you. I am very grateful for it. You are very brave. You shall have the reward I promised." "My king is very generous, but we cannot accept. Actually, we were only on our way to rescue my sister, and on the way we learned that Princess Lydia had been kidnapped. Now we just want to return home as soon as possible." "Come, my son, I insist that you get your reward and 3 of the best saddle horses," said the king, "and if you're in such a hurry, you can leave tomorrow." "Thank you, your majesty." Arlo bowed his head. They spent the rest of that evening there and told the king the whole story at dinner. The next morning they received the 3 saddled horses with all their gifts and rewards. They said their goodbyes and set off for home to their family in their little village. End.